Hello, my friends. Welcome back. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I've tried for years to forget what happened, to bury it like everyone else who survived that night did. But nightmares don't disappear just because you ignore them. People keep saying the forest is healing, peaceful, a place to reconnect with nature. But not all forests welcome you. Some tolerate you, some observe you, and some, like the place I camped in that summer, warn you to leave, and if you don't, they show you why you should have. This is a true story. And even now, while writing this, I'm shaking. It was supposed to be a simple weekend camping trip with my best friend Dylan. We'd both finished college finals, burned out, exhausted, and desperate to breathe in something that wasn't stale dorm air. But every decent campground in our state was packed. Families, hikers, RVs, dogs, you name it. So Dylan suggested we try a spot his uncle used to talk about, Copperhead Ridge, remote, unmarked, deep in the Appalachian backcountry. His uncle always said the place felt alive. I didn't like that description, but Dylan was stubborn. We drove 4 hours into the mountains, then another hour down a dirt road that barely existed. Finally, the trees opened to a clearing big enough for 2 tents. It looked perfect. But the moment I stepped out of the car, I felt something watching us. The place was beautiful, but wrong. Too quiet. Like all the sound was being absorbed by the trees. But Dylan was excited, so we set up camp. By late afternoon, we had a fire, chairs, food. Everything was perfect, until we found the first sign. A tree about 10 feet from our tents had deep, straight claw marks carved down its trunk. 6 parallel lines, perfectly even and at least 2 feet long. Definitely not a bear, definitely not natural. Probably some bored hunter messing around, Dylan said. He always had a logical explanation. But the truth? His voice shook when he said it. Around sunset, while Dylan was collecting firewood, he came back pale. I thought I saw someone watching me. I laughed at first, but he didn't. What do you mean, someone? A guy. Or, I don't know, a figure. Standing between the trees. We walked to the spot together. Nothing there. But the forest felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. We let it go. Big mistake. Dark came fast, too fast. Within minutes, the entire forest was pitch black, except for our fire. No crickets, no wind, no movement, just silence. Every few seconds, I caught myself looking over my shoulder. The trees felt closer somehow. We played cards to distract ourselves. Then, we heard it. A single, sharp whistle from deep inside the woods, not like a bird, more like a person trying to get someone's attention. We stared at each other. You heard that, right? I asked. Dylan nodded. We listened. Nothing. 5 minutes later, another whistle, closer. Probably campers, Dylan lied. We were miles from anyone. Around midnight, we got into our tents. We had 2 separate ones next to each other. I tried sleeping. It didn't work. Because around 1 a.m., I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, walking in a circle around the campsite. I held my breath. The steps paused, inches from my tent. Then something brushed the fabric, not an animal. It felt like fingers tracing the outline. I whispered, "Dylan?" No answer. "Dylan?" Nothing. Then, "Do not open your tent." Dylan's voice came from his tent, low, shaking. "I see something out there," he whispered. "Don't unzip, don't move." My heart slammed in my chest. "What do you see?" I whispered. "A person." My blood turned cold. He continued. "He's not walking right. His arms, they're wrong." "What do you mean wrong?" I whispered. "He's bending backward." The steps resumed, slow, dragging, circling both tents. My flashlight was in my backpack, too far to reach without making noise. I couldn't do anything but listen. Then it stopped, right between our tents. A shadow moved across the moonlit fabric, long limbs, crooked, unnatural. Something whispered, right outside my tent, Can I stay with you? The voice was wrong, like someone learning how to speak. I covered my mouth to stop myself from screaming. The whisper returned. I am cold, Dylan whispered from his tent. It's not human. Then, the thing crawled, fast across the dirt, the sound of limbs scraping, then silence. We waited, and waited. Finally, far off, we heard the whistle again, and the thing moved toward it. At sunrise, we crawled out of our tents. Neither of us slept at all. What the hell was that? I asked, but Dylan didn't answer. He was staring at something on the ground. Between our tents was a line of stones, perfectly arranged, each spaced exactly the same distance apart, leading into the forest, like a trail. Something wanted us to follow. We didn't. Instead, we packed, or tried to. Dylan's backpack was gone, just gone. No footprints, no drag marks, nothing. But his wallet, keys, and ID were in it. He cursed under his breath. We have to find it. No, I said instantly. We're leaving now. But he was already walking into the trees. The farther he got, the more the forest felt wrong, thicker, darker. The path we came in on didn't look the same. Even the sunlight felt dimmer. But we had no choice. We followed the stone trail. 10 minutes in, the trees opened into a small clearing. And in the center, Dylan's backpack, perfectly upright, placed like a gift. He ran to grab it, but I noticed something on the ground. 5 deep impressions in the dirt. Not footprints, handprints, huge ones. Each finger long, thin, twisted like roots. Dylan, stop. But he didn't listen. He grabbed his bag and froze. What is it? I asked. He slowly turned toward me, eyes wide. There's something behind you. I didn't turn. My body refused. Is it the same thing from last night? I whispered. He swallowed, hard. No, he said, worse. I forced myself to turn. I wish I hadn't. Something was standing just beyond the trees, tall, pale, with limbs that bent the wrong way. Its head was tilted like it was studying us. Its face, no eyes, no nose, just a long slit of a mouth that widened slightly as it leaned forward. The sound it made was like bone grinding on stone. I grabbed Dylan's arm. Run! We sprinted, branches hit us, roots tripped us, but we didn't stop. The thing moved soundlessly, effortlessly, gliding more than running. Every time I looked back, it was closer. When we reached the campsite, I thought we were safe. But then I heard it. A whistle to our left, another whistle to our right, then behind us, 3 in total, 3 distinct tones. There wasn't one of them, there were 3, and they were surrounding us. Get in the car, Dylan screamed. We threw everything into the trunk and jumped in. I fumbled with the keys, hands shaking, heart slamming. Something slapped the back window, hard. The glass cracked. Dylan shouted, "Go!" I hit the gas. The car shot forward. As we sped down the narrow dirt road, I saw them. 3 tall, pale shapes standing in the trees, watching, silent, still. The road seemed longer than before, twisting in ways it hadn't on the way in. At one point, I swear I saw the same fallen log 3 different times. Are we going in circles? I yelled. Dylan didn't answer. He was staring out the window. They're following us. I didn't want to look, but I did. In the trees on both sides, shapes moved, fast, fluid, keeping pace with the car. One of them leaned out of the tree line, its head inches from the window. I screamed and swerved. Finally, after what felt like hours, we burst out of the forest and onto the main road. Just like that, they were gone. We drove straight home, didn't talk, didn't look back. For a week, neither of us slept well. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. Whistles echoed outside our windows at night. Then Dylan stopped answering his phone. I went to his apartment. His door was unlocked. Inside, his backpack was on the floor, and beside it, a trail of stones, perfectly lined up, leading into his bedroom. I followed them, slowly, my heart pounding. Inside the room, the window was open, curtains blowing, and on the bed, a long, pale handprint, fresh, warm. Dylan was gone. The police said he probably ran off, but I know better. Something came for him, and it's still out there, watching, waiting, whistling. I sleep with a light on now, every night, because sometimes, right as I start drifting off, I hear it again. A whistle, soft, inviting, calling my name. I've lived with this memory for almost 10 years. I never talked about it online, never told my family, never even wrote it down until now. Every time I think about that weekend, my stomach turns cold and my hands start to shake. People always say the forest is peaceful. Mine wasn't. Mine swallowed people whole. This is a true story. Or at least, I pray to God that it isn't still happening out there. Back in 2016, I was dealing with a rough breakup and wanted to clear my head. No friends, no talking, just me alone with nature. Stupid idea. I know that now. I chose Black Ridge Peak National Park, a 200,000-acre stretch of forest and mountain trails in Colorado. Big enough for privacy. Safe enough that I wasn't worried. I've camped alone before. I know how to make fire, handle wildlife, navigate by map. At least, I thought I did. But Black Ridge had a reputation among locals. Not dangerous, just strange. People said the forest didn't echo, that the wind sounded wrong there, that sometimes at night it felt like the trees were leaning in. I laughed it off. That's always the mistake people make at the beginning of horror stories. They laugh. The first few hours were peaceful. Sunny weather, birds chirping, perfect breeze. Exactly what I needed. I hiked to an isolated campground, marked on an old map I bought from a ranger station. The spot was weirdly empty for a weekend, nobody around for miles. But I didn't mind. By evening I had the tent up, fire lit, dinner cooking. I felt calm, until the forest went silent. Not gradually, not like nightfall. Immediately. 1 second there were crickets, birds, rustling leaves. Next second, absolute stillness, like someone hit a mute button on the entire forest. I remember looking around, waiting for anything to break the silence. Nothing did. I turned off the fire to save wood and took a short walk around the campsite. That's when I saw him. A man standing on the trail, maybe 200 feet away, perfectly still, facing my direction. I couldn't see his face, but his posture made my heart drop. Arms limp at his sides, head tilted slightly, too still to be normal. I thought maybe he needed help, so I waved and shouted, "You okay?" No answer. He didn't move. I stepped a little closer and shouted again. Still nothing. The silence around me made everything worse. Even my voice sounded swallowed up. After a few moments, I backed away and returned to my campsite. When I looked again, he was gone. Just gone. Night fell fast. The silence stayed. I tried reading inside my tent, but my nerves were too high. I kept feeling like something was walking around the campsite. Around 11 p.m., I heard it, a faint scraping sound, like nails dragging across wood. Slow, deliberate, and circling the fire pit. I froze in my sleeping bag. I knew it wasn't an animal. Animals sniff, shuffle, make noise. This thing moved with purpose. I grabbed my flashlight and listened. Scurp, scurp, scurp. It stopped right outside my tent. I held my breath. Then, something pressed a finger, or a stick, or something, slowly against the tent wall. A single tap, then another. Tap, tap, tap. Then a long, dragging stroke down the entire side of the tent. Shh! I almost screamed. Then it stopped. I waited 2 hours before I dared to unzip the tent. Nothing was there. The next morning, the silence was gone. Birds chirped again. The wind returned. Everything seemed normal, except my campsite wasn't. Around the entire perimeter of my tent, someone, or something, had placed stones, perfectly spaced, perfectly aligned, a circle, about 6 feet wide. It wasn't there last night, and the stones weren't random. They were all flat and smooth, like river stones from far away. I stared at them for a long time, trying to convince myself this was a prank, but it wasn't a prank. There were no footprints, not even mine from the night before, like the ground had been wiped clean. A part of me wanted to leave then, but my pride, and maybe stupidity, kept me there. Around noon, I ran into a ranger on one of the trails. He was older, quiet, and looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Where are you camping?" he asked. "Black Ridge East, near the old Cedar Loop." His face changed, cautious, worried. "You shouldn't be there alone." "Why not?" He hesitated, then said, "That area gets strange reports." "What kind?" He avoided the question. "Just be careful. Don't hike after dark. Don't wander off trail. And if you hear something calling you, ignore it." He said that last part with absolute seriousness. That was the moment I realized something was wrong with this place. Deeply wrong. I should have packed and left before sunset. But I stayed. Idiot. Around 1 a.m., the forest went silent again. Instantly. Like someone flipped a switch. Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Approaching. I sat upright in my sleeping bag. The footsteps stopped right outside the tent. I held my breath. Then, a voice, not deep or monstrous, just wrong, like someone trying to imitate a human sound. "Hello?" My blood froze. Another voice joined it, higher pitched. "Let me in." Then a third. "Where are you going?" I wanted to scream but couldn't. The voices repeated the same 3 phrases over and over, circling the tent. "Hello? Let me in. Where are you going?" Different tones, different speeds, like children mimicking speech for the first time. Then, something grabbed the tent pole, hard. The whole tent shook. I fumbled for my knife, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The voices stopped. Silence. Then, a whisper right next to my ear, as if someone was inside the tent. "Let me see you." I swung the knife wildly. The blade ripped the tent wall, air rushing in. Nothing was there. Nothing. Just a cold wave of air, like someone had leaned in and breathed on me. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. At dawn, I decided to hike back to the car. No more waiting. But 30 minutes into the trail, I froze. There he was again. The man from the first evening, standing in the middle of the trail, perfectly still, facing away this time. This time I didn't call out. I quietly stepped behind a large tree and watched. He didn't move. After about a minute, he slowly began turning his head, not his body, just his head. Turning, 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 until his chin was almost over his shoulder. His face was wrong, empty, no eyes, just smooth skin. But he was looking at me. I stumbled backward, tripped on a root, and when I looked back up, he was gone. Again. I ran. Full sprint. No stopping, no thinking, just raw panic. The forest wasn't normal anymore. The trail twisted in ways it hadn't before. Landmarks disappeared. Trees seemed to have shifted positions. I kept getting glimpses of movement behind me. A shadow ducking behind a rock, a figure crossing the path, a pale hand in the bushes. Every time I turned, there was nothing, but I knew something was following me. Close, too close. At one point, I heard breathing behind me. Heavy, wet. I spun around. Nothing. Then, the whisper returned. The same whisper from the night before. "Hello." I started running again, and that's when I found it. It looked like it had been untouched for years. 2 tents torn open, a fire pit filled with old ash, a rusted kettle half buried in dirt, and on a fallen log, a backpack. I looked inside. Clothes, water bottle, a camera. I checked the camera. The last photo was a blurry shot of a tall figure standing between trees. The timestamp? 2 weeks before. The people from this campsite never made it back. I knew that with 100% certainty. Something had taken them. And now, it wanted me. The whispers grew louder the deeper I went. "Come back. Let me in. Don't go. Hello?" Voices overlapping, echoing from different directions. I ran faster. Branches whipped my arms, shoes soaked in mud. knees bruised from trips and falls. Every few seconds, I felt hot breath on the back of my neck. At one point, a hand, cold, long-fingered, grabbed my shoulder. I screamed and jerked away. Nothing was behind me. Nothing. But I could feel it. Something was close enough to touch. When I finally saw the ranger station through the trees, I nearly collapsed. I sprinted toward it, tears running down my face. But just before I reached the clearing, everything stopped. The forest went silent again. A shadow slid across the tree line behind me. Tall, wrong, bending in unnatural ways. The whisper filled my ear. "You shouldn't have left." I bolted into the station. The door slammed behind me. A ranger, different from the one I met, grabbed my shoulders. "Jesus, kid, what happened to you?" I couldn't speak. My voice wouldn't work. I just pointed at the forest. He looked outside, confused. "There's nothing out there." But he was wrong. Something was out there, watching us, hiding just beyond the line of trees, waiting. It took them 4 hours to calm me down. I told them everything. They searched the forest. They never found the stone circle, or the abandoned campsite, or any footprints, or any sign of the man on the trail. They found my tent ripped open, but no tracks around it. The ranger who warned me? They said nobody on staff matched that description. They accused me of imagining it. Trauma, stress, dehydration. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I never camped again. I never will. Sometimes, at night, when I'm half asleep, I swear I hear it again. A faint voice right behind my bedroom door. "Hello? Let me in?" And every time, I pray it never finds me again. People love to talk about how peaceful camping is, how the silence of nature clears the mind, how the forest air feels fresh in your lungs, how the night sky looks better when it's far from the city lights. But no one ever talks about the way the darkness of the woods can swallow you whole, or how sometimes when the world around you grows too quiet, you realize you're not alone. I never believed in supernatural things. I still don't know exactly what I saw, but after that night, I stopped camping. Forever. This is a true story, or at least, as true as my memory will allow. My best friend Ethan had been begging me for months to join him on a camping trip. He was one of those people who felt genuinely alive only when he was miles away from civilization, deep in the woods, fishing rod in hand, campfire crackling, phone switched off. "Come on," he said a week before the trip. 3 days, no crowds, no traffic, just us in the forest. You need this. I did need a break, so I agreed. We didn't choose a random place, and we went to Raven Hill National Forest, a popular camping area. Not some forbidden off-road mystery. People camp there all the time. Families, kids, tourists. But the part we chose wasn't on the main trail. It was a small clearing Ethan found years ago, marked by a strangely shaped pine tree he called the Crooked Finger. Before we even left the house, he told me, "This place is special, quiet. But sometimes the forest talks. Don't freak out." I laughed it off. If only I knew. We arrived late afternoon. The sun sat low behind the treetops, throwing long shadows over the trail. Raven Hill was supposed to be peaceful, but something about the air felt heavy. Not dangerous, just wrong. The woods were too quiet. Even the sound of insects seemed muted, like the forest was holding its breath. "You feel that?" I asked. Ethan paused, sniffed the air, and shrugged. "Storm coming, maybe?" Weather said the night might get weird. But the sky was clear, perfectly clear. We hiked about an hour until we reached the clearing. The crooked pine tree stood exactly as he described, its trunk twisted like a giant hand pointing a bone finger toward the sky. It looked unsettling, but that didn't bother me. Trees grow weird sometimes. What bothered me was the feeling creeping up my spine, like something was watching us. By the time darkness settled, the temperature dropped faster than expected. We built a fire, cooked dinner, and talked about stupid things, School, old memories, the time Ethan accidentally set his parents' fence on fire during a fireworks experiment. We laughed, but my eyes kept drifting toward the tree line. There was no wind, yet I heard leaves crunching somewhere beyond the darkness. Probably a deer, Ethan said when I pointed it out. But deer didn't walk like that. These footsteps were slow, deliberate, almost cautious, like something was circling us but didn't want to be seen. Around midnight, Ethan went to sleep, but I stayed awake a little longer. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe unease, but I couldn't relax. That's when I heard it. A whisper. A voice carried through the trees, faint, breathy, and unmistakably human. It was saying something, but the words came broken, stretched by distance or something else. I froze. My brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe another camper, maybe someone hiking late. But the voice didn't sound normal. It sounded like it was right behind the crooked pine tree. A soft, dragging chant. Here! Still! Here! I shut off my flashlight instantly. The whisper stopped. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stayed awake for hours, but I didn't wake Ethan. I don't know why. Maybe I convinced myself it was imagination. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Morning felt safer, the sunlight pushing away the memories of the night before. Ethan went to get water from a nearby stream, and I stayed behind to prepare breakfast. When he returned, he looked pale. You didn't build anything while I was gone, right? Build what? I asked. Come see. He led me about 30 steps behind the crooked pine tree, and there it was. A wall made of sticks. Not random fallen branches. These were cut, shaped, and arranged into a vertical structure almost 5 feet tall and 6 feet wide. Perfectly aligned, symmetrical, intentional. What the hell? I whispered. It wasn't here yesterday, Ethan said. I swear. The structure looked like something meant to keep a predator out or trap prey inside. But the strangest part was what was woven into the sticks. Small bones, tiny animal bones, arranged in circles. We stared at it for a long time. Probably a survivalist's art project, Ethan finally suggested, though even he didn't sound convinced. But neither of us wanted to leave. We had driven hours to get here, and Ethan wasn't the type to get spooked easily. We ignored it. We shouldn't have. It started around 2 a.m. A faint scratching noise gently stroked the outside of the tent, slow, repetitive, almost playful, like someone dragging a fingernail along the fabric. Shh, shh, shh. At first, I thought it was a branch, but the movement was precise, too controlled. I whispered, Ethan, you awake? He answered, voice low and tense. That's not the wind. The scratching circled the tent, inch by inch. We held our breath, listening. Then, footsteps. Soft, human-like, but distorted, like someone walking barefoot on cold ground. They moved around us, stopping sometimes, then continuing. Ethan silently grabbed his knife. I grabbed the flashlight but didn't turn it on. The footsteps stopped directly beside my head. And then, a shadow appeared through the fabric. Not an animal, not human either. Tall, thin, its head elongated into a strange, unnatural shape. It stood perfectly still, inches from me. I couldn't breathe. Then, without warning, it leaned closer, pressing its face to the tent wall. Something sharp, maybe a nail or claw, pushed against the fabric, not piercing it, just testing. It dragged downward slowly. Shh. I thought I would faint. After what felt like forever, the shadow stepped back. The footsteps faded into the woods. Ethan finally whispered, "We're leaving first thing in the morning." But morning would not save us. At sunrise, we packed immediately. Every sound in the forest made me jump. But when we reached the hiking trail, it was gone. Not grown over, not blocked, just gone. The dirt path we used yesterday was replaced by untouched soil, fallen leaves, and unbroken underbrush. What the hell? Ethan muttered. We walked along the tree line, searching for any sign of the trail. Nothing. It was like the forest shifted overnight. GPS? I suggested. Ethan pulled out his phone. Dead. No battery. Mine. Also dead. Both were fully charged last night. A cold dread washed over us. We just head west, Ethan said. We'll hit a main road eventually. So we walked. 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. The woods only grew denser, worse. No matter how far we walked, the crooked pine tree kept appearing in the distance ahead of us. Twisted trunk pointed to the sky like a taunt. We're going in circles, I whispered. Ethan shook his head violently. No, that's impossible. We're going straight. The forest disagreed. We stopped to rest, exhausted. But as soon as we sat down, the forest grew silent again. No birds, no insects, no wind, just emptiness. Then I heard it. The same whisper from the first night, except now it was clear, loud, and unmistakable. Not gone yet. It came from all around us, like the trees themselves were speaking. Ethan stood, knife in hand, turning in circles. "Show yourself," he shouted. The whisper answered, "Behind you." We spun around. Nothing. Then the sound came again, this time from the opposite side. Still watching, my skin crawled. The air felt electric. Every instinct screamed, "Run." So we ran. Branches slashed our arms. Roots caught our feet. We didn't care. We ran until our lungs burned. But when we stopped, the crooked pine tree stood 20 feet away. Ethan dropped to his knees, breathing hard. "What does it want?" I whispered. Ethan wiped sweat from his face. "I don't know, but we need to stay calm. Think." "We need to climb a tree," I said. "Get high enough to see civilization." Maybe, but neither of us moved. The forest was watching us. I could feel it, eyes in every shadow. Then Ethan said something I'll never forget. "It's not the forest. It's something in the forest." We heard a crack. A branch snapping somewhere to the right. Another, closer. Something big approached. We backed toward the crooked pine tree, terrified. That's when we saw it. A shape emerging between the trees. Tall, long-limbed, grayish skin stretched tight over bones. Its head bent at an unnatural angle, like its neck was too weak to hold it upright. It had no eyes, just smooth skin. But it turned its face toward us anyway. It could see us without seeing. Ethan grabbed my arm. "Run!" We sprinted, but the thing didn't chase us normally. It moved, no, glided, across the forest floor with unnatural speed, limbs snapping and bending as if joints didn't work the way they should. It cut us off easily, appearing ahead of us, blocking the path, like it knew where we would run before we chose. We slid to a stop, falling backward. The creature stood inches from Ethan. I could smell it, damp earth, rotting leaves, and something metallic. Its head tilted, then it spoke. Not with a mouth, its voice came from everywhere. "Stay!" Ethan screamed and slashed at it. The knife sank into its arm, but no blood came out. The wound closed instantly. Ethan stared in horror. Then the creature lifted its arm and touched his forehead with one long finger. Ethan collapsed, silent, motionless. I screamed his name, shaking him. He wasn't unconscious. His eyes were open, staring. But he wasn't there anymore. I ran. I don't know how long. My vision blurred. My legs trembled. The forest warped around me, trees shifting, shadows twisting, the world bending like a nightmare. Every few seconds I heard the whisper, "Come back. Not done. Stay." The voice followed me. I tripped, hit the ground, rolled down a slope, and slammed into a fallen log. I forced myself up, bleeding, half-conscious, and kept moving. Hours passed, maybe more. Then I saw it. A road. A real road. Not a hallucination. Not a loop. I stumbled toward it, crying. A car was coming. I waved both arms, screaming. The vehicle swerved, tires screeching. A man jumped out, yelling, "Hey, you okay?" I collapsed into his arms. For the first time in what felt like days, the whispering stopped. The forest stayed behind me, watching, silent. They found Ethan's body 2 days later. Or what was left of it. Police said he was mauled by a large animal, possibly a bear. But bears don't leave bodies without a single drop of blood. Bears don't leave faces twisted in an expression of terror. I tried to explain what happened, but no one believed me. They called it shock, trauma, hallucination from fear. I know what I saw, what I heard, what followed us, what touched him. I never camped again. I never stepped foot in a forest again. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is silent, I still hear it. A faint whisper behind me. Not done. Still here. And every time I hear it, I know Ethan isn't the only one it wanted. Thanks for watching, my friends. If you want more true horror, like, comment, and subscribe.